peer review, best practices in academic publishing. We are delighted to have you with us. Our featured presentation today is entitled Making Best Use of the Peer Review Process, and will be delivered by a distinguished scholar and editor, Professor Maarten Bavinck from the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Professor Bavinck is the founder and co-director of the Social Science Center for Maritime Studies, the founding associate editor of the journal Maritime Studies, and the founding co-editor of the MARE Publication Series. His extensive experience makes him uniquely qualified to guide us through the intricacies and opportunities of the peer review process. The presentation will be followed by a question and answer session, so please free to type your questions after the presentation of the professor. We will address as many of them as possible after the talk. Without further ado, Professor Bavinck, the floor is yours, and thank you for being today with us. Just a moment to share the presentation. So, can you see the presentation now?
Yes, I can see it. Can all of you see it? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then, so we have an hour. I hope I won't take too much of the time because I actually want to hear your questions and your experiences. I'm assuming that you have asked me to give this presentation because there are also problems with peer review, or you could say it raises various challenges. And anyway, that's something I hope we can talk about. Let's see if my buttons work. So my own background, thank you, Jonas, for your introduction. My own background, I've been working for the University of Amsterdam for many years. I am now emeritus professor, which means that I don't have to do administrative stuff, and I don't need to do things I don't like to do. But I'm very pleased to be here and share some of my experience. As Jonas was mentioning, I'm one of the founding editors of the journal called Maritime Studies. I'm now also one of the, let's say, key editors, associate editors in the team. And I have worked with and for other journals in the past year. So journal Marine Policy, you all know, Journal of Legal Pluralism is more specific, etc. Okay, so what I will present is basically from my own experience. I haven't consulted all kinds of manuals. It's just based on my own experience. So let's get going. So this is the outline of my presentation. I'll say something about the role of peer reviews for science, the role of peer reviews for the journal, for any journal, the role of peer review for the editors of a journal, and then finally, and maybe most importantly for you, to think about how authors or prospective authors can make use of the peer review process to their best advantage. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's go down. And now my thing isn't working. Is it working? No, I'm not working. Yes. Okay. So what is the use of peer reviews for science as a whole? I looked this up in Google, and two things came up which I thought were relevant. The purpose of peer review is to evaluate the paper's quality and suitability for publication. It is a collaborative process where authors engage in a dialogue with peers in their field and receive constructive support to advance their work. What I like there is that it's about a collaborative process. It's about how journal editors, peer reviewers, prospective authors work to realize high quality publications in the journal. So the second quote, peer review has a key role in ensuring that information published in scientific journals is as truthful, valid, and accurate as possible. Okay, that's just a general thing. As scholars, as young scholars, we all try to publish in journals that have a peer review process. Universities generally do not recognize or do not give much support to publications that are not peer reviewed. So that is a reason for why yourself and many young authors also go for a journal with peer reviews. And then a question, just a side question in a sense. So everyone, when you have finished the paper, you also start thinking about where it should be published. What is the best place to publish it? And you want to choose a journal that is widely read. You don't want to have it published in a journal which no one looks at. Preferably, it has some impact factor. Preferably, nowadays, it's an open access journal. But then the question also comes of how can you meet the payment obligations? There are often also public obligations for open access to somewhere get the funding. People, myself included, you also try to spread your publications over various journals. You do not want to publish all the time in the same journal. So you want to spread it. And of course, you want to consult with your colleagues to find out what the best journals might be, what their experiences have been, etc. Also with the peer review process. Because one of the issues with peer review is that it takes time. And some journals have organized their peer review process better, and some have organized them less effectively. Which could mean that it takes a longer time for you to get a response to your submission. Okay, let's go. Why is it not working? Let's see. So what is the relevance? So zooming in on all these journals, all these valid journals in the world, because there are a lot of, let's say, fake journals which promise all kinds of things but don't deliver, journals that ask a lot of money, etc. But let's just assume we're looking at journals that have a valid position in the scientific field, and what for them is the relevance of the peer review. And there are a number of things which play a role. The first thing is that it demonstrates the fact that a journal is peer reviewed, demonstrates and provides some assurance of scientific quality. It is also an instrument to maintain your ranking, the impact factor. If you don't have peer review, you can forget your impact factor. It is an instrument to check and improve the quality of submissions that come in, and it is an instrument to assist the editor in decision making, because an editor is normally not specialized in the full range of topics. So for instance, for Maritime Studies, we're looking at topics regarding people and the sea in a broad range of geographies and specific topics. So an editor does not know all these fields, and peer review actually helps to assist the editor to make a good decision. And here I do want to note a few things. One is that it is not always easy to find good reviewers nowadays. There's a big, could say, a reviewer crisis. There are very many journals also in the field. There are more and more papers being written and submitted almost every day. And reviewers or potential reviewers are becoming more critical and saying, look, I'm willing to review, but I can't do this all the time, and I can do only so many in a year or in a month or whatever. There is also the issue, or it's not really an issue, but you see differences between journals as far as the anonymity of the review process goes. Many journals, including Maritime Studies, we use a blind review process, which means that the author does not know or does not learn the identity of the reviewer, which is also meant to provide the reviewer with some freedom to make comments which may not be very positive, and may also contain some criticism of what is happening. So there's advantages and disadvantages of anonymity. Some journals are now moving into a full open process where authors do know the names of the reviewers, and there's even a possibility of discussing. Anyway, the review process is for a journal. It is a first external check on what the quality of certain manuscripts might be. So how does it actually work? So if you write a paper, if you write something you would like to publish, you send it into a journal that you think is relevant, and there is a first check by an editorial assistant or in the office who looks at the fit with the potential with the journal in question. And I must say that we also have a lot of manuscripts coming in that do not fit the journal at all. That's what I think we have a discard rate maybe of 50% or so of the papers coming in, that we conclude that the authors have not considered whether the paper actually really fits the journal they are sending their paper to. So that's a very important point. Anyway, there's a first check. A number of papers are rejected immediately, and then the paper in question goes to an editor who checks in more depth whether he or she thinks it actually fits. Then it is assigned to a particular editor to handle the whole process. So in our case, we have a editor-in-chief, then we have a managing editor, and we have a number of associate editors. So if a paper is considered good enough to actually submit to a review process, it is then assigned to an editor who will handle this whole process. Let's go to the next thing. So what is the relevance of the peer review for the editor who is being assigned this particular manuscript? It assists him or her in making decisions on what actually to do. So if, depending on the outcome of the peer review process, the paper may be rejected outright. It may be accepted outright, but in most cases there are also question marks, and the reviewers indicate that a paper will need either minor revisions or major revisions. So these the conclusions the reviewers make help the editor in question to make a decision on the manuscript. It is important to know that manuscripts often go through more than one review process. So they are sent out for review. Generally, the review means there are two persons who are asked to do a review of the paper. And then they come back with their suggestions. And as I mentioned, often there is a request to make major or minor revisions. And in that case, the paper will probably be sent out again after the author has made these revisions. It is then sent again for a second review, often to the same people who were reviewing the first time. More than two reviews is sometimes happens, or more than two cycles, let's say, but often it stops after one or two stages. So what is the peer review process? What does it mean for the editor also? It is also relevant with regard to the career stage of the author. And so you could say you have more advanced authors, people who have written a lot, they know the tricks of the trade, and you have more beginning authors, and let's say PhD students who are submitting their first papers. And for them especially, it's the review process is important. It gives them an indication of how people who are expert in the field actually look at what you have written. And what we, at least in Maritime Studies, we think it's very important that we also pay special consideration to beginning authors, that we also try to provide them with constructive comments and help so that they can actually improve their either the let's say the scientific argument they are trying to make, or the way they have actually set up the paper. So who do we select? If I'm assigned a paper as editor of Maritime Studies, who do I select as reviewer, or who do I try to find as reviewer? I'm looking for two people. I will, of course, take a look at the suggested reviewers provided by the author, because we always ask them also for some people they may suggest who know the field well. I would possibly take one of their suggestions, but I would never take all of them, because I would want to have an independent someone else who may provide a different kind of viewpoint as well. In any case, what I would look for is a kind of contrasting expertise. So, for instance, if there's a paper on India, and I know the country of India relatively well, then I will try to find someone from India, but I will also find someone from outside of India who is more topical expert in that particular field. So a contrasting expertise. Of course, you will also look for people who are reliable, who are objective, who are willing to assist beginning authors. And of course, you are also looking for people who respond quickly, who do write up the review in a respectful and manner, and in a way that makes their points clear. So they explain what their opinion is about different points, and actually note suggestions also for the author. Of course, there are lazy reviewers. You now also have reviews being sent in that have been composed by AI, and I think that is something which is a no-no. This is something you should not do, which we as editors of a journal do not expect. We expect people to read the manuscript thoroughly and to present their well considered responses in their own language, let's say, or in their own way of putting it. Okay, let's go down to the next one. Well, now this is maybe the thing which is for you the most important. So how do you actually make use of a peer review process? And I can imagine for a beginning author, receiving comments from a peer reviewer is also a bit scary. You don't know how you have worked hard on the paper. You are proud of it. You are hoping it will be published, also because you want to move forward. So it is a scary thing to receive the reviewer comments back from the journal. And my first thing would be, well, my first suggestion would be, please take time to consider. You will get comments from 2 reviewers at least. Read it through, go for a walk, have a cup of coffee, talk it over with a friend or a colleague, and try to make up your opinion on what are they actually trying to say, and what are the positive things they say, what are the critical points they also make. Put it aside for a day, and then also start thinking about how to react to the various points, because you will sometimes agree with reviewers. Some points are maybe very easily accepted, and that they point out that a certain reference is not correct, or that that there may be some other author you may have missed or something like the sort. But there may be other things that may be more confusing and may be more difficult to accept, such as that certain arguments you are trying to make have not come across properly, and that you wonder how that's possible. Yeah, that you feel that you've done your best to put it to paper, but it has not come across. In any case, there are always some emotional reactions to reviewer comments. Either in a positive sense, it's you're elated and happy that they actually like what you're trying to do. In other cases, you may be disappointed, but there will always be points that you think, well, that's something I need to do something about. Apparently, it has not come across as I would like it to have come across. I need to do something. And so then you start preparing a response to the reviewer comments. And my own preferred way is to make a table in which there are at least 2 columns. And the first column is each comment. So the first column is all the comments of each reviewer, point by point. So each row you will have 1 comment, next row, etc. So that you have the first column is just a list of all the points made by the 2 different reviewers. And then the second column is for your response, how you actually dealt with this particular comment. This is a very useful kind of thing. That's why we, as editors of journal, we appreciate this kind of response, because it's easy for us to see whether you have taken the time and really thought about the points made by these various reviewers. You may also not agree with certain points, and I've had that a number of times myself as author, that you receive a review and that you think, well, this is just this and what the reviewer is suggesting, that you think this is not the way you think this paper should be written, that the reviewer has missed a point, and that you want to stick by your own argument and the way you have written it down. Well, that's a very valid position, and you can actually in your response also indicate where you disagree with the reviewer and why you actually disagree. And yeah, and then continue to the next point. To please go back to the previous page still. No, this is not. Am I right? Yeah, this is correct. One of the difficulties is if you get contradictory reviews. One reviewer says, "Oh, I like this very much, the way you've organized it and you've done the paper," and the other reviewer is very critical. And how do you actually deal? What do you want to? How do you respond to this? It is, to some extent, the responsibility of the editor in question to formulate, to actually indicate to you as author in the letter that accompanies the reviews, to indicate the relative weight of the various reviewer comments. So, for instance, there's two reviewers have looked at the manuscript, and that I, as editor, would say, please pay more attention to reviewer number 2 because of this and this reason. So that gives you an indication. The editor should give you an indication in case of contradictory reviews, which reviewer to take more seriously than the other. And of course, in this situation, you also have a choice. Say, look, reviewer 1 is saying this, reviewer 2 is saying that. I think reviewer 2, I think reviewer 2 has a better argument than reviewer 1, so I will follow that approach. So, in the end, you will have revised your paper in line with the reviewer comments that you think are valid. You will have formulated a table which provides a good overview of the comments of the reviewers as well as your reactions. And you will have provided a letter to the editor in which you say, look, this is how I have dealt with the reviewer comments, and here this is now the revised paper. And so that is what you do at that moment. You have rights to a fair and timely peer review process. That is what all journals promise. And generally, it also takes place. The reviews are correct, they are to the point, they are respectful, and the whole process does not last overly long. And then that is how things should go. Before submitting a paper, there are a few things you have to think about. One is that you check the substance of your argument, that you don't have annoying loose ends. So you've put together the argument. The paper is complete. It is the arguments are correctly formulated. You have raised a question in the first, in the introduction. In the conclusion, you have tried to summarize your conclusions. You check your references and the spelling and the grammar sometimes it can be very annoying that you receive manuscripts as a journal editor which have all kinds of mistakes, and that you wish that the author had paid more attention. Format the paper properly, and make sure that you've read and followed the guide to authors of the respective journal. Let's see, do I have one more slide? I think I do.
Yes, yes.
I think some of this I've already mentioned. Of course, that you assess the validity of reviewer remarks. You respond to each mark separately. Formulate a table, as I mentioned before. And of course, remember that peer reviewers do not have a monopoly on truth. And they may be experts in the topical matter, but that does not mean that they have a good overview of all aspects, and you may have a very valid point to make or a different kind of argument. And you therefore do not need to follow them if you think that that there is good reason not to do so. You may thus also disagree, but of course you should stay respectful and take time to formulate an adequate response. What I realize I have left out is after a first, so let's say you have submitted a paper to a journal, it has gone through a full cycle, you have received the reviews, we have responded, and then again the editors turn to think about the next step. And then, as I mentioned before, it may be sent out for another review, or sometimes the decision is actually so easy to make that the editor will make a decision immediately to either reject the paper again. That won't happen so quickly after a whole review process, but it may be sent out again for a second review to maybe the same reviewers. I think, Jonas, I am through my presentation, and I'm hoping that you will have questions and comments to make. So please go ahead. I look forward to any questions.
Yes, yes.